My mom looked me square in the eye and said, "You're not part of this family anymore," right after she tore me out of every single photo in the album. I told her, "Then don't ever ask me for money again," and I left them a goodbye letter that hit harder than anything I've ever said. Name's Maverick. I'm 29 years old. If you talk to folks who used to know me, they'd probably tell you I was the golden boy. I always got straight A's, landed a full ride to college, snagged a steady tech job right after graduating, and from the outside, it looked like I was the one who figured it all out. But nobody ever talked about what it cost me to get there. That cost was my silence. I stayed quiet when my sister Ellie took my emergency fund to bail herself out after her third time getting caught drunk behind the wheel. I did not raise a fuss when my parents spent the money I was given for graduating on fixing their roof and never paid me back. And I really bit my tongue when I became the one expected to handle everything, like I was some kind of machine who could deal with any mess without ever complaining. That became my role, year after year. I was the fixer, the dependable one, the guy who brought over groceries without being asked, who paid a medical bill without saying a word, who wired money when the car broke down again. And the few times I did speak up about how unfair it felt, I always got guilt thrown back at me. "You're doing fine, Maverick. Ellie's had it tough. You're not going to let your family suffer, are you?" Thanksgiving used to be the one time I tried to convince myself things were okay. This past Thanksgiving was different. I felt it the second I walked through the door. Nobody jumped up and called out my name. Nobody hugged me like they missed me. "You're here," was all my mom said, drying her hands on a dish towel. Ellie barely looked at me, just a quick glance before going back to scrolling through her phone. I figured they must be stressed. They always acted cold when money was tight. I carried the bottle of wine I brought into the kitchen, and that is when I noticed something strange. There it was, the old family photo album, just sitting on the coffee table. I had not seen it in years. Last I remembered, it was buried up in the attic, full of embarrassing pictures from childhood. Me wearing overalls, Ellie missing her front teeth, our parents looking young and happy during holidays gone by. That album used to be a big deal at every get-together. Seeing it again made me pause. Maybe someone was feeling sentimental, I thought. While everyone chatted like nothing was off, I picked up the book and started flipping through it. At first, everything looked normal. Baby pictures, birthdays, old beach trips, fuzzy but familiar. But then, something started to feel wrong. Photos that should have had me in them were torn. Not carefully trimmed, but ripped, rough and angry, like someone stared at my face and decided I should not be remembered. At first, I thought maybe it was just old pages stuck together, or maybe water damage. But no, Ellie was in every shot, clear as day. Smiling, laughing, front and center. I flipped more pages. In every photo where I had once stood, my part was shredded out. My high school graduation? Ellie and my parents were there, standing under the banner I had paid for, but I was gone. That one Christmas where I worked overtime just to buy everyone something nice? The album showed Ellie opening her gifts, and not a single trace of me. My heart pounded in my chest, my face burned hot. I sat there quietly, flipping page after page, staring at what felt like my entire life being erased. And not a single person said a word about it. I gently closed the album and put it back where I found it. I did not say a single thing that night. I sat there at dinner, just going through the motions, while the same old digs and jabs got tossed around like always. My mom made some snide remark about the store-bought bread I had brought, the same bread she had specifically asked me to pick up. Ellie started griping about her job again, dropping hints that her rent had gone up, like I was supposed to jump in and fix it. And my dad, trying to be funny, made one of his usual cracks about how folks my age waste money on fancy toast. That was rich coming from a man whose credit card debt I had paid off just a few months earlier. I smiled. I nodded along. I even let out a few polite chuckles, just like I always had. But deep down, something inside me had shifted. It was not just frustration anymore. Something in me had broken for good. After dessert, when Mom was in the kitchen scrubbing the same plate over and over like it was going to fix something, and Ellie was glued to her phone watching silly videos like a teenager, I slowly reached into my coat pocket. I pulled out a plain white envelope. No name, no message, just blank on the outside. I laid it gently on the table. Ellie narrowed her eyes like I had just dropped a bomb in front of her. "What is that?" she asked. "It's not for now," I said, calm and quiet. "You can read it later." Of course, she ignored that. She ripped it open right away. She unfolded the paper and started reading. At first, her eyebrows scrunched up like she could not make sense of it. But then, her face changed. Confusion turned into fury. She shoved the letter over to Mom. Mom's hands shook as she took it. I watched her eyes scan the page, slowly, word by word. Her jaw dropped open a little, and her fingers pressed to her chest like someone had just punched the air out of her lungs. Then came the crying. Not just a few soft sniffles. I mean the kind of deep, broken sobbing that happens when something inside you shatters beyond repair. Dad, who had been in the middle of pouring himself a glass of something strong, froze. He set the bottle down, took the letter, and read it in silence. I watched his face stiffen, his hands tremble slightly. No one said a word. Not a single sound. That was how I left them. I told them I was finished. I was done being their fallback plan. Done being the one who always got blamed when things went wrong. I was through pretending we were some kind of happy family when all I ever felt was used, blamed, and controlled. I reminded them of every time they drained me, not just my money, but my energy, my peace, my heart. And in return, all I ever got back was guilt and more expectations. I let them know I saw the photo album. I knew what they had done. I would not let that slide. I told them I would not pay Ellie's rent again. I would not cover Dad's medical bills, and I sure was not fixing Mom's car anymore. Whatever broke next, they could deal with it themselves. And the last part? That was the hardest to write. I told them I was gone. No more Christmases, no more birthdays, no more pretending. I was not coming back. Not for anything. Still, no one said a word. I picked up my coat, looked each of them in the eyes one last time, then turned and walked out the front door. But that was not the part that stuck with me. What came next? That is where everything truly changed. I sat down behind the wheel but did not turn the key. My hands were locked tight around the steering wheel. My heart was thumping. I had no idea what was coming next. I figured there might be yelling. Maybe some tears. Maybe Mom would come running out the door, begging me not to tear the family apart. But instead, nothing. Not a single word. Nobody followed me. Nobody shouted after me. Just silence. And that silence? It hit harder than any argument could have. It did not feel like they were stunned. It felt like they were already working on payback. I knew my family too well to think they would just let this slide. So I drove back across town to the little Airbnb I had rented. It was nothing special, just a small place with one bedroom, old creaky wood floors, and a heater that rattled like it was about to fall apart. It was not much, but it was mine. I dropped my stuff on the floor, sat down on the bed, and looked at my phone. No messages. No missed calls. I waited about an hour. Still nothing. Then came the morning, and that is when it started. Quiet at first. I woke up and saw a vague post on Facebook from Ellie. Funny how people change when the money stops coming. Then, of course, she threw in one of her usual dramatic quotes. Family should be a place of peace, not a battlefield. That was Ellie, all right, sly and loud at the same time. Not clear enough to start a real fight, but just enough to get people feeling sorry for her. Then Mom chimed in with her own post. Hers was more sentimental. She put up an old black and white photo of her holding Ellie as a baby. Underneath it, she wrote, "No matter what happens, I will always love my daughter. Being faithful means more than being wealthy." I did not say anything. I did not react. That is what they were fishing for. They wanted me to jump in, to argue, to explain myself. But none of it was real conversation. It was all just a show. What I did not expect, though, was what came next. They started reaching out to people I was close to. Let me tell you how that went. Back in high school, I had a small group of friends, Sebastian, Robert, and Clara. We stuck together over the years. We still chatted in a group text, hung out when I was in town, and played games online now and then. They knew my family was tough, but I never really opened up all the way. Talking about it too much made it feel even heavier. But my mom? She had no such hesitation. Robert messaged me first. "Hey, man, just wondering, did something happen with your family? Your mom gave me a call. Said she's worried about you." Then Sebastian checked in. "Got a voicemail from your mom. Said you're going through stuff and need support. She okay?" Even Clara, who had not talked to my mom since we were in college, sent me a message. "Your mom tracked down my number from some old university list. She says you're pushing people away and asked me to reach out." What was going on? Honestly, it felt unreal. My own family was making it look like I needed some kind of intervention, like I was having a breakdown, right after I finally stood up and walked away. And the worst part? For just a few seconds, I actually started to wonder if maybe they were right. A little voice crept in, whispering. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe they were just hurt. Maybe I had misunderstood something. But then I remembered the pictures. I remembered how they didn't even blink when I found that photo album. How every trace of me had been erased, like I had never even existed in their lives. They were not wounded. They were exposed. That realization hit hard. My stomach turned, not because I regretted leaving, but because I finally saw the truth I had been pushing down for years. I was never really their son to begin with. I was a source of money, a provider. That was all I had ever been to them. And now that the money had stopped, so did the pretense. They were tossing me aside like I had no value anymore. I took a deep breath and sent a message to Sebastian, Robert, and Clara, all three of them at once. I didn't lose my temper. I didn't talk trash about my family. I just laid it all out plainly. I told them about the emotional pressure I had lived under, the endless financial demands, the guilt they used like a weapon, the photos they had edited to erase me, the letter I left behind, and how I finally made a choice to stop pretending everything was okay. Each of them responded with nothing but support. Sebastian said, "Man, I do not even know what to say, but I am proud of you. You do not deserve any of that." Clara wrote, "I am really sorry you went through that. Thank you for opening up to us. I am here for whatever you need." And Robert said, "Family is supposed to love you, not bleed you dry. You made the right call. That should have been the end of it." But it wasn't. 2 days later, I got a call from my boss. I work online for a medium-sized tech company, and I have always kept my work life and family life completely separate. But somehow, my mom managed to cross that line. She called the front desk at my job, asked to be transferred to human resources, and told them she was worried about me. Claimed I had been acting unstable and might be a danger to myself or others. Yes, my own mother tried to mess with my job, tried to wreck my career, just because I stopped paying for her lifestyle. Luckily, my manager is a sharp guy. He called me directly and told me what happened. He said the whole thing sounded off, and that he figured something weird was going on. He even offered to give me some paid time off in case I needed a break. I told him no. I needed the routine. I needed something normal to hold on to while the rest of my life was falling apart like a table missing all its legs. That same night, I finally blocked her number. I blocked Ellie too. Even my dad, though he had not said a single word to me since I left. All he had done was hit, like, on Ellie's pity-filled posts online. I figured maybe that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. A few days later, I got something in the mail. Not a message. Not an email. A real letter. Handwritten. No return address. No name. Inside was one plain piece of paper. No greeting. No signature. Just 4 words, written in all capital letters. "You owe us everything." And that is when I realized this was not over. It was just beginning. I sat at the little kitchen table in my Airbnb, staring at that note like it might catch fire in my hands. The paper was shaking, and it wasn't the wind. It was me. My hands would not stop trembling. It was not fear, not exactly. It felt colder than that. More like the steady, quiet focus you get right before pressing on a wound you know needs stitching. I stared down at those 4 words again. "You owe us everything. Not thank you for all you've done. Not can we talk this through. Not even why did you leave us. Just a demand." For cold, flat words. Like I was not a person, just a wallet. Like they were calling in a debt I never agreed to. That is when it finally clicked. I had been trying to matter to them, trying to earn some kind of love. But it was never about love. What I was really doing was trying to escape a deal I never signed. Whatever little part of me still hoped my parents might love me, that part faded out for good. After that, something shifted inside me. I stopped reacting with emotion. I started thinking like an engineer trying to figure out why a machine failed. Where did I mess up? What parts broke down? That night, I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I was not planning revenge. Not yet. I just needed to get to the truth cold and clear. I pulled up my banking records and scrolled through everything from the last 6 years. Payments to Ellie. Bills in my parents' names. Loans I never saw a penny from. It was worse than I thought. By the time I totaled it all up, I felt sick to my stomach. I always knew I had given a lot, but not like this. The number was close to 6 figures. Rent, credit cards, emergency help, a down payment on a house, car repairs, school cost for Ellie's kid, groceries. And not once, did anyone ever say thank you. It was always expected, like I owed them for existing. I started collecting proof, screenshots of old text messages. Mom saying, "You won't let us go without, right?" Or, "You don't want Ellie and her baby to lose their place, do you?" And me? I kept saying yes, even when I was broke. even when I was living off instant noodles because I had nothing left. Then I stumbled on something I had completely forgotten about, an audio file. Just a voice recording. The kind that saves automatically when you hit record by accident. It was from a visit a few months earlier, when I was home for Dad's birthday. I must have started recording without meaning to and left my phone in the kitchen when I walked out of the room. That day had felt tense, but I chalked it up to the usual awkwardness. What I heard on that recording was something else entirely. It started with my mom, whispering to Ellie, "Don't make him suspicious. Keep things calm until the mortgage goes through. Once we get the refinance, he can go if he wants." Ellie said, "He already asked for proof about the car." And Mom replied, "Then fake it. You know how. He won't check." Then my dad's voice, laughing, "He is not going anywhere. He's soft. Always has been." It was like hearing strangers talk. Not my family. Not people who loved me. It sounded like a strategy meeting. Like I was a target. A source of money. I paused the recording and just sat there, staring at the screen. That was it. The letter, the silence, the Facebook guilt posts. Those were just surface symptoms. This was the infection underneath. The real truth. And even then, I did not do anything. Not yet. And believe me, I wanted to hit send. I really did. I wanted to forward that recording with a big, bold subject line. "Nice job. You played yourselves." But I didn't. Because I knew that is exactly what they were waiting for, rage. If I lashed out, they would be ready. They would twist it into proof that I was the problem. So I did nothing. I ignored the letter. I stayed off social media. I kept quiet even with friends. The most I said was, "Yeah, things are still kind of messy." I let them think I was shaken, that maybe I was doubting myself. And sure enough, that's when people like them start to feel bold. When they sense weakness, they move in. I was right. 3 days later, I got an email from my mom. No subject line. Just one cold sentence in the body. "You can still fix this if you stop overreacting." Attached to the message? A scanned letter from her lawyer. They were looking into legal options over what they called neglected family obligations. And unless I agreed to support Ellie during her custody battle, they said they would have to pursue further consequences. I sat there reading it, feeling nothing. At first, it was so absurd, I nearly laughed out loud. It felt like something from a soap opera. It hurt because of what it meant. They wanted to punish me for walking away. They wanted to make an example out of me, send a message that you don't leave the family, not without consequences. And that was when it hit me. I had been playing it too soft. They wanted to fight? Fine. I would respond in a way they would never recover from. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed calm on the outside. No angry posts. No rants. No gossip. I said nothing to anyone. But behind the scenes, I was getting to work. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer. Not because I thought they actually had a leg to stand on, they didn't, but because I needed someone in my corner who knew how to handle people like this. I found an attorney who specialized in family harassment and emotional abuse cases. Sharp guy. Tough. Smart. He looked at the letter they sent and gave a dry laugh. "This won't hold up for 5 minutes," he said. "Let's hit back harder." So that is what we did. I gathered every piece of proof I had: bank statements, screenshots of text messages, email chains, and that audio recording. I put it all into one organized file. I titled it, "Evidence of Financial and Emotional Abuse, Family." The whole thing ran over 80 pages. I handed it to my lawyer, and together we drafted a cease and desist letter. It listed repeated harassment, emotional harm, and financial exploitation. We did not just ask them to stop. We made it clear, in legal terms, that if they ever tried to contact me again, demanded money, or tried to spread lies about me online, I would sue. We even included a full breakdown of the money they had drained from me over the years. Every cent. The number was staggering, well into 6 figures. I printed out everything and sent hard copies by certified mail, with tracking to each of them. One for my mom, one for my dad, one for Ellie. But I was not finished yet. Remember how my mom called my workplace? That was a line she should never have crossed. So I had my lawyer file a formal statement with her employer, a small medical clinic where she worked part-time. It wasn't aggressive, just the truth. I explained the situation, included the documentation, and made it clear how her actions caused stress at my job and nearly put my position at risk. I didn't ask them to punish her. I just wanted the facts on the record. And in places like that, word tends to get around. Next, I reached out to relatives I had kept at arm's length for years, mostly to avoid dragging them into family drama. I messaged my mom's sister, one of my dad's cousins, even my late grandmother's old friend, the one who still sends birthday cards. I did not write some long, emotional message. Just a brief, respectful note. Hi. Just wanted you to know I'm stepping away from Mom and Ellie. It's for my mental health. If you hear anything strange, you can always come to me directly. Some didn't reply. A few did. Once I shared a bit more detail, their responses were eye-opening. One said, "That actually makes sense now. Your mom told everyone you were selfish." I always felt like something about that didn't add up. Exactly. And that is when things slowly started to unravel on their end. Ellie ramped up her social media posts, sad quotes, vague accusations, subtle blame. But without my money to cover her rent or her lawyer, things went south fast. Her ex filed for full custody. And he won. I did not celebrate it. Especially not for the child's sake. But I did not feel guilty either. I had tried to help. For years. And she used me start to finish. As for my dad, he never reached out. Not once. Maybe he was ashamed. Maybe he just did not care. Either way, the silence felt like a gift. Mom did not give up so easily. After the cease and desist letter was delivered, she stayed quiet for a little while. Then she wrote a letter by hand and sent it to my old address. Thankfully, I had mail forwarding set up. It was 5 pages long, wandering, dramatic, and dripping with the same guilt-tripping she had always used. Lines like, "We are the only family you have. You misunderstood us. Everything we did came from a place of love." I read it once. Then I ran it through the shredder. I have not spoken a word to any of them since. That was about 6 months ago. I live in a new place now. One that is fully mine. No family pictures on the walls. No fake smiles frozen in frames. No reminders of pretending everything was fine. Just peace. And space. I finally booked a trip I had put off for years. I went to Italy. There was a moment, I remember it clearly, where I stood on this rocky ledge by the coast, looking out over the endless blue sea, thinking about all those years I carried weight that never belonged to me. And right then, I felt weightless. Not because I got revenge. Not because I won some kind of fight. But because I stopped letting people who never gave love without strings, decide what I owed them. They took a lot from me. My time. My money. Parts of my past. But the one thing I never let them take? Me. That was the real victory.